Today's topics: the lies we've been told about recycling, scientific studies, and shockingly, big pharma.
Flight crew, please prepare for takeoff.
Minute till self-destruction.
Hello, welcome to Off Grid Styles Podcast. I'm Nikki, and I'm thrilled to death to have you here. Today is super interesting and delves super deep into the lies and misinformation that we have been given. We, the entirety of the American people, left, right, center, whatever you believe in, we all have been misled. That cute little girl that yelled at all of us about how we were killing her world with the ponytail or the pigtails, Greta. Yeah, well, she's involved obviously too, because it's all BS. So this article I researched everywhere: The Guardian, Plastic Pollution Coalition, the Plastics Council, NPR, MIT, several Washington Post, New York Times, several government sites to get this information and to collate it all and confirm it all. I don't just take one source. I go to all of them and make sure that that what I'm getting information-wise is correct. So, what truly happens to your plastic when it goes off in its cute little bin if you're a place that has to recycle? Curiosity. Where's it go? What do they do with it? It doesn't matter where you take it, if it's at your front door or wherever your yard, end of your yard, or if it's at a recycling center, or if the city has something set up. Whatever they deem you have to do, doesn't matter. Most plastic is never recycled. Plastic is not designed to be recycled. Say that again. Most plastic is never recycled. It is not designed to be recycled. They're lying to us. When you use plastic and you put it into the container that they tell you have to put it into, it gets transferred into the hands of the global waste industry. And they love when you give them plastic. This industry is made up of a wide network of businesses, governments, and individuals, all getting their share of nearly $500 billion a year generated in the global waste market. $500 billion. This trash trade has grown significantly over the course of the last 2 decades. And actually, Wayne Huizenga, that's how he got all his money back in the 90s, waste management. Anyway, so it's grown significantly in large part due to plastics production and per capita waste generation. Though recycling of plastic and other types of waste makes up a very small share of that $500 and whatever billion dollar industry. Plastic producers have understood for over 3 decades, 30 years plus, that recycling isn't a practical solution for managing plastic waste, both in terms of economics and technology. It costs too much to recycle. Despite this awareness, they have actively promoted recycling, and this was all revealed in a recent report. And I'm going to cite this report many, many times during this portion. So Richard Wiles is the president of the Center for Climate Integrity, or CCI, and they're the ones who did this entire report, collated all the information, had all kinds of researchers on it and legal on it, and released this report just recently. Firmly states that the companies have also been deceptive and has proof of it. Shocking, I know. Companies were deceptive? Government wasn't? No. Say it ain't so. Wiles emphasizes that the need to hold these companies accountable for the harm they've inflicted must happen. Plastic, which is derived from oil and gas, poses significant challenges for recycling due to its complex nature. Okay. Recycling plastic requires them to sort the different the different stuff, because no two items are made the same. So, like the plastic bottles that maybe your Coke comes in are one type of plastic straws are another type of plastic. The plastic to go container you got is another type of plastic. They all have to be sorted differently. That's a lot of money that must be spent just to make sure that they go into their own little piles. And plastic degrades with each reuse. So the actual recyclability of plastic is 1, maybe 2 times. That's it. That's all. If you're lucky. And some of it can't be recycled at all. The industry has been well aware of these significant challenges for many years. They chose to conceal this information in their marketing efforts, and this was revealed in the CCI's report. The research from the CCI draws upon both previous investigations and newly uncovered internal documents highlighting the extensive nature of this decades-long campaign. And it is a campaign. Industry insiders have openly acknowledged the shortcomings of plastic recycling over the years. It's described as uneconomical, can't be considered as a permanent solution, and it cannot go on indefinitely. According to the authors of this paper from CCI, the evidence suggests that oil and petrochemical companies, along with their trade associations, may have violated laws aimed at protecting the public from deceptive marketing and pollution. We have all been preached at, yelled at, had it shoved down our throats that we had to recycle plastic because it was being reused and that was the best thing for the environment, and that way we weren't killing the turtles and all the rest of the gobbledygook they told us. It was all a lie. Single-use plastics, which is what most disposable stuff is now. In the 1950s, plastics producers introduced single-use plastics. The reason why was to ensure that people continuously purchased their products. So Coke bottles stopped being made in glass. They started being made in plastic. All the other items began being produced in plastic. And that way it got thrown away. And unless you were my grandma, who washed her paper towels, I don't know why, but she did, and you grabbed again. So the plastic producers who produced the plastic for all of these other consumable products introduced one-use plastic. One use, not recyclable and used many times. Davis Allen, an investigative researcher at the CCI and the lead author of this report, highlights that producers recognize the consumer appeal of single-use plastics. Of course they did. You can see the evolution of how we've turned into people who, convenience and quickness are the two things about, especially the United States, that are kind of our buzzwords, or the way you appeal to most Americans, is convenience and quickness. Hence all the fast food and hence all the obesity. But that's a story for another day. At a 1956 industry conference, the Society of Plastics Industry, or now known as the Plastics Industry Association, advised producers to prioritize low cost, big volume, and expendability of the materials, encouraging disposability. Well, okay, back in 1956, that wasn't such a big deal. We have almost twice as many people living just in the United States now as we did in 1956. So it's gotten a little bit more important nowadays. Matt Seaholm, the president and CEO of this Plastics Industry Association, criticizes the CCI's approach to this report, saying that they focused on political attacks rather than constructive solutions to address plastic waste. I'm sorry, y'all told us for years and years and years that we had to do this because you were going to recycle it and make buildings and sheets and everything else out of this stuff. So why would we suddenly, or this group suddenly, think that they had to come up with solutions for you? You told us you had the solution. We just had to make sure we didn't want to get fined, so we had to make sure we got our stuff in the right bucket. For years, the industry reassured the public that plastics could be easily disposed of in landfills or burned in garbage incinerators, till they realized that burning it is not such a good thing. It's not healthy at all, burning all that yummy chemical stuff. In the 80s, as concerns about plastic pollution grew and cities considered bans on plastic products, the industry shifted its focus to promoting recycling. So first they told us, oh, we can get rid of it. We can just burn it. It's no problem at all. Then it went to, when people realized how bad that was, it went to, we can recycle it. We can reuse it again and make it, sustainable. Yeah, we can do that. Liars. Despite knowing how challenging attempting to recycle plastic would be, internal reports from 1986, like the one from the Vinyl Institute, acknowledged that recycling only delays the disposal rather than providing a permanent solution. So we all thought we were recycling. This stuff's going to get reused. It's not going to be harmful to the environment. Come to find out, like I said before, at most you're going to get 1 to 2 uses, and that's only out of certain plastics, not all the plastic. So that plastic water bottle that you throw in that bucket is going into a landfill. Fact. In the 80s, in 1989, the founding director of the Vinyl Institute openly admitted that recycling cannot solve the solid waste problem. There it is, right there. Despite this awareness, they established the Plastics Recycling Foundation in 1984 to promote recycling efforts. In 88, they introduced the Chasing Arrows emblem, the triangle Chasing Arrows emblem, and put it all over everything. But experts have criticized the symbol as highly misleading. And federal regulators have recently, finally, echoed these concerns. They also established plastic recycling research centers at places where cities had protested and banned plastics. For instance, Rutgers University in New Jersey, and there was another one in St. Paul, Minnesota, where they had banned styrofoam. They introduced these research facilities to show how they could recycle plastic, and this was back in like 1985. In the early 90s, another industry group ran ads in Ladies' Home Journal proclaiming a bottle can come back as a bottle over and over again. All the while, behind closed doors, industry leaders maintained that recycling was not a real solution. In 94, a representative of Eastman Chemical spoke at an industry conference, so they were all talking about it within their industry. It's just nobody outside the industry was getting this information. Someday, this may be a reality, he said, recycling, but it is more likely that we will wake up and realize we are not going to recycle our way out of the solid waste issue. And that same year, an Exxon employee stated, we're committed to the activity of plastic recycling, but we're not committed to the results of it. Wiles, the lead of this CCI, the head of the CCI, said it is clearly fraud that they have engaged in. The report does not explicitly accuse any companies of breaking specific laws, but Alyssa Joel, who is a co-author and attorney of this report, suggests that they may have violated public nuisance, racketeering, and consumer fraud protections because they all knew about it. They were all in on it. The report highlights ongoing misconduct within the industry, pointing out that industry lobbying groups have been promoting chemical recycling as a solution to plastic waste in recent years. There's a problem with chemical recycling, though. Chemical recycling involves breaking down plastic into little molecules to create new plastics, synthetic fuels, and other products. but it generates pollution and it requires more energy than traditional plastic recycling. Despite promotion by the industry, the report by the CCI emphasizes that chemical recycling is not a genuine solution to plastic waste either. In 2003, a trade consultant criticized the industry for promoting chemical recycling, labeling it as another instance of unscientific thinking influencing industry and environmental activism. Poor Greta. Davis Allen, the spokesperson for the report, describes chemical recycling as another example of deception by the industry. Matt Seaholm, who represents the Plastics Industry Association, criticizes this report from the CCI, claiming it was created by an activist anti-recycling organization. He alleges that the report uses outdated information and false claims to mislead the public about recycling, but he never specifies which, if any, claims are actually inaccurate, and all of these claims came from earlier studies that were all legitimized. They've been lying for years. Here comes another one. So, scientific studies, I mean, those are well known. Big universities do them, small universities do them, all different kind of organizations do them, and they're revered and they're trustworthy. They get put in medical journals, they get put in scientific journals. They're trustworthy. Huh. The Guardian, Nature.org, Vox, again, the Washington Post, New York Times, and several of the government websites all chipped in on this one. Last year, 10,000 sham papers had to be retracted by academic journals, but experts think this is just the tip of the iceberg. Investigations suggest that in some fields, at least 1/4 of clinical trials might be problematic or even entirely made up. The scientific community, okay, let me go back to that. 25% of research put into academic journals is either quote unquote problematic or it is completely made up. 25%. The scientific community is facing an international scandal, I'll say, as tens of thousands of bogus research papers flood journals each year, and is getting worse, compromising medical research, hindering drug development, and jeopardizing promising academic studies. In the past year, the number of papers retracted by research journals surpassed 10,000 for the first time, indicating a significant escalation in scientific fraud. Many experts believe the actual number is much higher than what was reported, suggesting the problem is more widespread than commonly acknowledged. It wasn't commonly acknowledged to me. I didn't know about it. I doubt most people had ever heard of it.